Power is what leaders crave and what many people fear. But the art of power doesn't rest in simply having it. It lies in knowing how to wield it. To truly understand the nature of power, we need to look at one of history's most controversial thinkers, Niccolò Machiavelli. In 1513, while in exile, Machiavelli penned his notorious work, The Prince. This wasn't just another guide to leadership, it was a manifesto, a blueprint on how to gain power, how to keep it, and how to crush anyone who dared threaten it. One of Machiavelli's most famous teachings was this: it is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. This teaching unveils a truth about love. It is fragile. Love is given freely, but it can be taken away just as easily. Love is bound to emotions that shift like the wind. But is it the same story with fear? Fear is something you control. As long as fear remains, so does obedience. Machiavelli wasn't advocating cruelty for cruelty's sake. Instead, he made a cold, calculated observation. In a world full of shifting alliances and uncertain loyalty, being loved can leave you vulnerable. Fear, on the other hand, offers protection. It builds a wall around you. Yet Machiavelli's wisdom goes beyond fear. In another harsh lesson, he warns, men ought either to be indulged or utterly destroyed. If you wrong someone, ensure they are either placated or so thoroughly defeated that they can never rise against you. He believed half measures only breed revenge. When you strike with force, leaving no room for retaliation. If you don't, their resentment will fester, and eventually it will consume you. It's a brutal calculation, but in The Prince, Machiavelli urges leaders to think with their heads, not their hearts. Emotions, or even ethics, often have to be set aside to maintain power. These principles didn't fade after the Renaissance. Even today, leaders face the same harsh realities. It's easy to speak of compassion and ideals. But when the stakes are high and everything is on the line, survival depends on those who know how to balance love and fear, mercy and ruthlessness. So, for Machiavelli, the art of power wasn't about being good or bad. It was about being effective. It's not an ethical choice. It's a necessary one. And that necessity is what makes it so dangerous. In modern times, leaders may not rule with swords, but the lessons still apply. A leader who shows weakness is vulnerable. Fear, when used wisely, secures your position and eliminates threats before they can grow. Machiavelli wasn't celebrating wickedness, he was studying it. In the game of power, half measures only lead to retaliation. Strike hard, and your enemies won't have the chance to rise again. But as Agathocles showed us, this path may win power, but not glory. Oliverato da Fermo used deception rather than brute force. He invited his uncle and the leading citizens of Fermo to a banquet, and when they least expected it, he slaughtered them. Through cunning, he seized the city and ruled, until Cesare Borgia outmaneuvered him. Even the most ruthless must understand that power gained through treachery always sits on the edge of a knife. The risk's simple. Fortune might lift you, but it won't keep you at the top. Ruthlessness is vital, but pushing too hard will destroy your position. Keep in mind, true power isn't found in fear or love alone. It's in knowing how to wield both.